former United States President Bill Clinton once revealed a profound secret about Queen Elizabeth II. He wrote in his memoirs that she was forced to be a brilliant politician and a master diplomat without ever seeming to be either. But maintaining that perfect illusion required a devastating psychological cost. Behind the gilded gates of Buckingham Palace, the sovereign did not just rule an empire. She managed a house of Soviet spies, psychological torment, forbidden love, and public betrayal. This is the unvarnished story of what happens when the crown demands everything you love. It began with a betrayal of the ultimate royal rule: silence. As a teenager, Elizabeth fell deeply in love with Prince Philip. The world only knows the intimate details of their first encounters, like the 18-year-old cadet jumping over tennis nets. To impress the young princess at Dartmouth College because of one woman, Marion Crawford. She was their devoted royal governess. But when she dared to publish these innocent secrets in a book, the crown struck with brutal efficiency. Marion was cast out of the royal circle forever, dying in total ostracism. It was Elizabeth's first brutal lesson: trust no one. But the true danger was not a gossiping nanny. It was the Cold War, bleeding directly into the Queen's private sanctuary. In 1979, the British public was horrified to learn that Anthony Blunt, the Queen's own esteemed art surveyor, was unmasked as a Soviet double agent. For years, a KGB spy had roamed freely among her most priceless treasures. The Queen, completely humiliated, was forced to publicly strip him of his knighthood. But if a spy could breach the palace walls, the public was about to breach her family. When her younger sister, Princess Margaret, begged to marry the divorced captain Peter Townsend, the institution famously blocked the union. History books tell us the church said no. But there is a far more fascinating secret behind this royal crisis. For the first time in modern history, the British public felt they had the right to intervene in the royals' private lives. Women in the streets of the East End literally shouted at Margaret to ignore the crown and follow her heart. The Queen realized the terrifying truth: the public believed they owned them. And to protect the mystique of the monarchy, she had to crush her sister's happiness. To survive this relentless pressure, the Queen adopted what insiders call the Windsor temperament. Imagine a nuclear submarine navigating the darkest depths of the ocean. On the surface, it glides silently, projecting untouchable power. But inside, the pressure is crushing. The crew lives in isolation. The Queen was the captain. When a crisis hit, her duty was to lock the heavy steel bulkheads to stop the ship from sinking, even if it meant letting her own family drown in the next compartment. The role was simple: sweep the problems under the carpet, maintain the stiff upper lip, never communicate. And nowhere was this emotional drowning more brutal than in the life of her heir, Prince Charles. To the world, the Queen was in absolute control, but behind closed doors, Prince Philip was the undisputed boss, forced to be an alpha male, who had to walk submissively 2 steps behind his wife in public. Philip overcompensated by ruling the family with an iron fist. He forced the sensitive, fragile Charles to attend the unforgiving Gordonstoun School in Scotland. Charles was profoundly unhappy there. And what did the Queen do? She simply took her eyes off her son. She allowed the psychological torment to happen, sacrificing her maternal instincts to appease her husband's bruised pride. If you are fascinated by the hidden psychology of historical figures and the untold cost of leadership, do consider subscribing. We unravel the true history behind the palace gates. But the ultimate clash of the Windsor temperament arrived with Lady Diana Spencer. The breaking point was not just infidelity, it was the publication of Andrew Morton's explosive book Diana, Her True Story. That book annihilated any remaining sympathy the Queen had for Diana. The true conflict was a war over how to raise the future king. The Queen strongly disapproved of Diana's emotional fragility, particularly the agonizing episodes where the princess would lock herself in a bathroom, sobbing uncontrollably, while a young Prince William pushed tissues under the door to comfort his mother. To a monarch trained to never show a tear, this display of emotion was the entirely wrong way to educate a child. She believed it was unforgivable. To make young boys feel guilty for their mother's unhappiness, but the ultimate betrayal of the Queen did not come from her husband, her sister, or her daughter-in-law. It came from the very people she had sacrificed them all for. 1992. This infamous Annus Horribilis. In a matter of months, the marriages of 3 of her children collapsed in public humiliation. And on the exact day of her 45th wedding anniversary, Windsor Castle caught fire. As the smoke cleared, the government asked the nation to help pay for the restoration of the sovereign's ancient home, and the British public flatly refused. They said no. For a woman who had been accustomed to receiving only the kindness and adoration of the public her entire life. This was a profound and shocking injury. She was deeply, deeply hurt. She had traded the happiness of her sister, the emotional health of her son, and her own maternal instincts, all to protect an illusion. Because just as Bill Clinton observed to be the perfect sovereign, she could never truly be human. But what happens when the next generation inherits a crown so heavy that it literally drives them to the edge of survival? That is the dark story of King Charles and the burden of the modern throne, waiting for you in the next video.